Get this one started. I almost feel like I don't even need the mic, but we will use it. If we can have any volunteers, like make sure everybody outside knows it's the final talk of the day. We want to make sure everybody's in here for that one. Get that going there. So we were kind of spitballing ideas for this talk. Hopefully everybody online. Can you verify the mic is working for online? All right. All right. So we were playing with ideas for this talk, and we kind of had a moment just now where this entire conference has been against pretty much the idea of like taking in questions because we didn't want to disrupt any of the speakers. What I felt like, and we kind of felt like, it would be great if there are questions so we can spear like most of this talk around what people want to hear. So, and I will say this, me being completely transparent, in my keynote, I said the same thing. This conference wouldn't exist if it wasn't for free code camp. I don't think I'd be on the stage if it wasn't for free code camp. I think my entire family's lineage would be completely different without free code camp. And so I think to me and Leon both, we hold Quincy Larson very, very extremely high regard. And so because of that, we thought since there's such a big variety of people here, if anyone has a question, maybe that can be the jump start of our talk today. So does anyone have a question for anyone? Go for it. Why did Leon Noel start free code camp?
Testing. Hey everyone, I'm Quincy. I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. I'm so humbled to be in the presence of two greats.
Okay.
And they're so chill and so down to earth, and like the "don't meet your heroes" thing is not true. Like, you want to meet these guys, you want to get to know them because they are just good people. They're super chill, super wholesome, and super humble. And I have profound respect for them and everything they've accomplished. And I hope that that was picked up on this mic too. Okay, so why did I start Free Code Camp? I just was kind of frustrated with the price of education. Like, a lot of things just come back to cost of living. And I was very frustrated that college is as expensive as it is. Like, I don't understand why things are so expensive. I don't understand why things are getting more expensive. For me, the whole promise of technology, of, you know, improving business processes, of being able to get specialists into industry so that things can be done more efficiently, like, the prices are supposed to go down. Like, what you read about in your economics textbooks is prices go down over time. And it felt like, at least in education, back in the early 2010s. So I worked as a teacher and a school director for about a decade, and doing tutoring and all kinds of teaching, basically teaching ESL mainly. And I could understand why the cost of ESL, like you'd spend like $1,000 a month to be in an intensive English program, and you'd have like all these teachers stuff. But I could never understand why people were paying thousands of dollars a semester to go sit in a lecture hall with like 500 other people and listen to some old guy scrape the chalkboard. You know, I just never understood. It never made any sense to me. And I always thought, like, there's this old saying, like, if you've ever read the book Hackers, the Heroes of the Digital Revolution, I think is the name. It's like 1980s, like early 1990s book. And there was this speech that was captured in there where they said, information wants to be free. And I always thought, like, education wants to be free. Like, a learning resource is infinitely reproducible. Like, you can go and just photocopy a textbook and you have a copy of the textbook and you didn't have to pay $300 for it. And there's nobody that can really stop you. Maybe the textbook company comes after you or something. It's a nightmare scenario, but like information itself is infinitely reproducible. And web servers are going down in cost all the time. Why can't you just put learning resources online? Like, Project Gutenberg was a huge inspiration for me because they're taking public domain books and putting them online where anybody can access them. And it turns out, you know, text is very small. And it turns out that JavaScript that executes client side in the browser when you're running tests against your code, very, very small. Like, Free Code Camp is not like a super duper expensive website to host because it's mostly text and it's mostly code that's running in your browser and things like that. And I just thought we could do this so much cheaper. Like, it's ridiculous that there isn't just like a free university, or like that there aren't just free universities. Like, I never understood that. You've got these multi-100-year-old universities that have billions of dollars in their endowment, and it never occurs to them to just make it free for everybody. Make it free for like some elite few that are able to jump through all the hurdles that are usually based off of whether their families were wealthy enough for them to have tutoring and all these extracurricular activities and stuff like that. But like, at the end of the day, like, it really just comes down to money. Like, I hate that money's still a thing. I always watched Star Trek as a kid, and I always imagined being in this post-scarcity society where people could do whatever their calling was. But the reality is, like, life beats that out of you, and you learn very quickly when you go into the real world that everything's about money. And I can understand why a university, even if they have billions of dollars in their endowment, still wants to get, $50K a year from the rich kids and stuff like that. And like, I don't know. Sorry, this is like the most overlong answer, but ultimately, it comes down to people deserve free education. I believe it's a universal human right, and it's profoundly disappointing that we haven't figured out a way to have free education for everybody. We figured out a way to have pretty good public schools in a lot of parts of the world, or in a lot of parts of the U.S. anyway. And I feel like, taking that next step and making not just primary school, not just high school, but university and graduate school, everything beyond, making that free as well. Free technical schools. I think all that stuff could happen, and I don't think it would really negatively impact very many people other than these giant, education conglomerates. And these universities that would actually have to, they probably get government funding to do it. I just don't see. It seems like it's such an obvious win. So yeah, like at the beginning of Free Code Camp was very deliberate, because I genuinely believe like free is the most powerful word in marketing. It's one of the most powerful words in the English language. And I just feel very strongly about free as a price. Thank you for the question. I'll try to keep the answer shorter than that.
Well, so you gave a great answer. Oh yeah, I forgot. So you gave a great answer, but it kind of started reminding me of the conversations we were having last night. So we got to hang out in a hotel room last night. So we were hanging out and we were talking, and it kind of brought on a subject that we were talking about, where we see people that are learning, they're building their skill set, and now obviously this market is probably difficult for some people. And we talked at length on it, and I thought like maybe this could be the pivoting point for this subject. Like, people are going through 100 devs, people are going through Free Code Camp, people are going to a $30 conference, and so they're gaining skill set, right? And so people are then saying, how are we translating this into the current job market? And shameless shout out, we have a podcast, and one of the episodes we're kind of talking about what we see the current state of the job market in, and there's definitely some areas where it is definitely more difficult than it was in previous years. But I feel like, I know we got takes on this. I don't want to give mine yet, but do you want to start going on this? Like, what we think about the current job market? Go for it.
Cool. Thank you. Also, this one too.
Yeah.
There we go. We got to double it. Also, first, I'm geeking out. This is the GOAT, the inspiration, next to my new best friend in the whole wide world. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing for me. So thank you. When we talk about the state of the current market, it's always really sensitive because folks are hurting. They are not understanding why the effort they're putting in isn't resulting in the outcome that they want. And so what you start to see is people feeling more and more detached from the actual interview process and leaning into things that might honestly be cognitively a little bit more easy, but maybe not the thing that's going to actually move the needle to get yourself the job. And so when we're at this point where things are hard, things are difficult, what can you do to be in control and take like ownership of that process? And right now, one of the uncomfortable things that we kind of want to talk about is that the game is a game. You have to learn how to play the game well if you expect to get a job in this market. And the thing that we get the privilege of seeing is people still getting jobs every single day. Every single day I get a thank you or something along the lines of, hey, I got the job, I put in the steps, it worked. And so it's really hard when we get on a stage and we want to say, yeah, we understand, we commiserate, but then in the back, I see the emails, I see things like it's still possible. It's just the game is different and you have to learn how to play it. So don't lean into the idea of that you can't do it. You can, it's possible. Learn the skills, learn the way to present those skills, get an outside perspective on the things that you're doing, because often one or two changes could be the difference in a successful transition in this market. So I just want to hopefully bring some hope to the start of that conversation, because it's still possible. It's still an amazing career choice. It's still a way that you can transition. You just got to get the right knowledge on how to do it. And then once you do it, put it into practice.
You don't want to take?
Oh, you want me to answer the same question?
Yeah, go for it. Because I think we're all going to have similar or different.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add to what he said. I mean, I think that if you aren't working as a developer yet, this has probably been a question asked before, and I apologize if I'm putting people on the spot, but how many of you all are currently working as a developer or dev adjacent type role? Okay, quite a few of you. Yeah, so congratulations. And yes, this is the most brutal the job market has been, and probably the most frustrating the job market has been in several years. And kudos to everybody here who's sticking out and still pushing to get either their first developer job or line up their next role. I think that this field is one of the best fields, and I'll just give you a quick, you've probably heard this a million times before, but what other fields can you do interesting creative work where you are able to use your brain and do new things every day? Because the whole definition of a developer is not like somebody who writes code, but somebody who learns and then synthesizes new solutions. You don't solve the same problem over and over, because you can just infinitely reproduce your solution to the problem that you had already solved. You can just write code, and then that's kind of formalized and taken care of. And maybe you have to maintain that, but most jobs, you're just if you're a dentist, you're just looking at people's mouths every single day, telling people to floss every single day. And no knock on dentistry, it's an important profession and everything, but I would much rather be a dev than a dentist. Right? And there are just so many reasons. It's a whole lot of work to get a developer job, of course. Maybe it's been easy in the past when the interest rate was zero, is relatively easy or easier. Maybe it was very easy during the .com boom, place like that. Maybe it'll be easy again in the future, and you'll be looking at the people who are easily able to get developer jobs, and you'll be oh man, if only you knew how hard I had to work to get my developer job, right? But I think regardless of how hard it is, it's absolutely worth it to keep trying and to keep pushing and keep not only trying to get your first role, but keep advancing and getting subsequent roles. Because if you can get in a role where you're able to work remotely, or where you get benefits, or any other number of things where you have that flexibility, that quality of life. When I tell people I'm a software engineer, people immediately kind of sit up. They're like, oh, really? That's cool. They've seen Mr. Robot. They have maybe seen the 90s movie Hackers. They know exactly what it's like to be a developer from Hackers, right? So I just want to emphasize, it is absolutely worth the struggle. You're going to get there, and you're going to be so glad that you did. And for those of you who are already there, just keep pushing and keep expanding. Who knows what the possibilities are with the skills that you're cultivating and the people that you're meeting around you. These people who can potentially help you ratchet up your career and potentially build businesses, potentially build legacies for yourself.
So I've got a take on this, and I genuinely believe this too. To support Leon's point, we literally see people on a regular basis landing jobs in tech, whether it's their first job, their third job, their fifth job. Today at this conference, someone, I'm not going to bust them out because I told him I won't announce it on the internet until he finally announces it himself. He just got his first job in tech at Amazon. That's today. He's in the room. So we'll clap for him. But he's in the room. I'm literally getting these messages. It used to be every single day. Now it's like every other day, every third day. Here's my thing. The tech job market has caught up to pretty much majority of all other markets. If you were an accountant and you were certified as an accountant, to get your first job as an accountant, you had to really step up against a lot of the competition. My brother-in-law, love the guy. He is a cardiovascular pediatric surgeon. It took him 2 years of interviewing all over the country before he finally got his first placement. Every industry in the world has had competition. It was just that tech in general, for a long period of time, had such a massive shortage that if you just coughed and it sounded like the word JavaScript, you could find yourself in an interview, right? Like, that's it. Simple as that. And so now you're having to play the game that we talked about in a podcast episode. So shout out the program podcast. But sincerely, that situation changed up for a lot. The fact that the job market caught up to everywhere else has really shocked people, because it's not an entry-level issue anymore. I'm literally meeting people that are engineering managers, directors. I'm talking to people that are senior developers. I talked to one senior developer in the month of February last year. He was laid off. We had one 15-minute phone call in September, and in October, the first week of October, he was landing his first job. Like, from zero contact, nobody replying to him, to now with just adjustments. And what ends up coming because of that? What are those adjustments? Developers, sincerely, I'm using nice words. Developers, for the most part, do not ever think about how their skills quantify or relate to actual business solutions. So when it comes to their resume, what does it say? I worked on a website, worked on the landing page. What does that equate to? If someone in a non-technical capacity is looking at your resume, they don't even know what to go off of. So I think that's a big hindrance. We talked about this in actually the podcast episode that dropped today. One thing that I think is like the biggest mistake developers are making, especially in today's market, honestly, is they're so focused on interviews 3 and 4, they forgot about interview number 1. And because of that, you've totally disassociated yourself from who's the person in interview number 1. The person in HR, the person from a non-technical role. They don't have a clue what you did. And so when they're trying to look at their job description and then look at what you submitted, there's no correlation, because you're already thinking about that technical interview without thinking about how you got through the soft skill interview. And because that, you're not playing the game the right way in today's market. And so for me, I do think the job market has gotten harder, but it's because the level of competition has risen. And one angry LinkedIn comment that I got today, they're like, we were talking about types of projects somebody could build. And they're like, why can't I just get a job with the calculator app? It's on every device that you use. This is obviously solving a business problem because it's a calculator. It's like, but the perception is what changes. A calculator app by many is perceived as a project that you build when you're trying to learn the skill set. It's not the one that you showcase to say that you are an established, educated individual in that skill set. And so that perception plays a large role in how people will, I guess, perceive you. And so you need to think about that when you're trying to get a job. What? 2 minutes? Yeah, we're gonna run over on this one. We're gonna run over. I'm just saying that now. We got Quincy Larson on stage. We're gonna run over. But I think that's a big factor into today's market. And so I don't care if you're a junior dev or if you're a senior dev. That's something that a lot of senior devs are really missing right now when they're trying to get these jobs. And if you're a junior dev, of course, now more than ever, everybody that learned how to code during the pandemic, everybody now that came out of a boot camp, everyone that's coming out of college, I'm seeing the same thing, but they're trying to go through jobs through the same traditional path. And that you need to be different than that. It's the same way that, again, using the example of accounting, you can't just go to the job fair with your resume and think that the employers are going to fight over you because you learn how to count some numbers. It's the same thing today. Just because you learn how to code, that doesn't mean you're like at the level where they need to hire you right away. It's the prerequisite to enter the conversation. Just to become an English teacher doesn't mean that you know English. It's the prerequisite to enter the conversation of becoming an educator in that space. It's the same thing here when it comes to coding, and at least in my opinion. You want to add anything to that?
That's great. No, I think we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier too. Taylor kind of gave like a really great talk right before this about what it takes to get the job. And he talked about it being vibes. Vibes are the really important piece. But I always talk about it as like a smell. And so I always say entry level developers and now even senior developers have a smell. There's something that when you walk into the interview that's going to distract the hiring partner, that's going to distract them. And you have to figure out what those things are so that you can stand out in the application process, but also not fumble in it. And so for some folks, it could be a slight change to your LinkedIn, it could be a slight change to your Twitter. And figuring out those things are really important. And it's hard to do that by yourself. And so one of the things I love about us all being here right now, so you have a wonderful community around you that are at different levels, different stages. Lean into that today, lean into that tomorrow. If you're struggling with something about this process, about how the game's changed, how you're continuing to grow, like ask. Just talk to somebody else, because that conversation, that different way of approaching it is going to be a game changer for you. And so please don't leave here if your goal is to go from entry level into the field or go from mid to senior and you're having some sort of trouble with it. Figure out what that thing is. Stop me in the hall. I know, stop Danny in the hall, right? Like Quincy's got way more important things to do for but stop us, ask, talk, like engage with other folks about what you could be doing to make that change. And I guarantee it'll open the doors for you and you'll get that progression that you're looking for. Yeah. Should we do another question? Yeah, let's pivot. Should we do a question or?
Yeah, let's do it. Anybody else have a question? Go for it.
Yeah, thank you, all of you so much. I have a lot that I could say. To see my role models on either side of their role model is really cool. And the altruistic, impactful effort that you guys have done for everyone in this room is huge. And I want to be able to bring people up behind me in a much smaller community. How do I get started?
I'll start and then
Go
okay.
I got it.
You start. That's it.
Check my answer.
You just start. It doesn't have to be something big. Like when I was starting 100 devs, I thought it'd be me and like 10 people and that'd be it. And we call it a day. I never imagined like this like community of folks that would spring up around it. And that was never the goal either. I just wanted to help. And so if your intention is that you want to help, start with one. One can be a massive change. One, if you think about it, if you can take someone from kind of minimum wage into an average developer salary, that's $3 million over their career going back into that community, going back into the community that you care about. So that one individual is outsized return on a little bit of effort. And then once you figure out how to do it for one person, do it for two. Then slowly people start to see, oh, this person knows what they're talking about, and that you'll bring more people into it. And then by that time, you have people that already know how to do it because they've worked with you, and then they can lead the charge. And so the beautiful thing is seeing our efforts grow beyond just us to people like yourself saying, hey, I want to be the difference. I want to help. Just start, get one. That's a huge return. You learn so many things, and then it'll snowball from there. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Hey.
So I'll just say very quickly that when we started Free Code Camp, like I say we, because like I stood the site up and pretty quickly we had people like coming in the chat room and hanging out, and most people would just be passing by. And I would do everything I could to keep them there. I'd be like, oh, what's your favorite color? You know, like just anything I could do to keep them there. And then other people would come and like I try to like be the example, like constantly helping people. And today I do not use any sort of LLMs or any sort of email filtering tools or anything. I literally respond to every email I get. That's not obviously spam. Like when people get my email newsletter and they reply, hey, I really like this link. This is like super helpful. I'm like, cool. Glad it was helpful. Or like, I enjoyed this week's podcast. Or, hey, I have a question about XYZ or something like that. Like, I think it's very important that you take time and you never take any one person for granted or think, oh, you know, like, I've got other things I can do. Like, just try to devote as much time as you can reasonably, because you're probably busy, and like other people who are thinking about creating communities are probably busy too. But like, don't ever feel like, oh, that wasn't like a good use of my time or anything. Like, if you're helping somebody, you're helping them, and that is absolutely a good use of your time. And they are going to remember that. And then when their time comes to help, it's going to be a virtuous kind of chain reaction. So just keep being a chill, approachable, kind human being, empathetic to people's situation, patient when you're teaching them, and just keep doing it, and it will gradually pick up. And it may take a long time, but there will be progress. Even if there are droughts and stuff like that, if you just keep doing it, you are going to help people.
Just give up, dude. Everybody's too positive right now. No, I'll tell you this. Number one, you said something really big to me. And to be honest, I think this is why we're geeking out. We hold Quincy Larson in very high reverence because I think we all look at you as like a beacon for, like, obviously within the tech sector, like you're a big deal, whether you realize it or not. And the Godfather. Honestly, like I'll share one quick story about Quincy that a lot of people don't know. When I was doing meetups, I started in Memphis, Tennessee. The first meetup that I ever did in my life, 4 people showed up there. It was me and my 3 co-organizers. Like, nobody showed up. We couldn't get anybody there. And it was small, right? And we were just 4 devs hanging out at a coffee shop. It was Panera Bread, actually. We're hanging out at Panera Bread in Mississippi, and nobody was really showing up. And we didn't really care, though. But all of those quote unquote bad meetups led to us finally figuring out what people needed within the community. And through those iterations, we ended up creating better groups, better experiences. Some co-organizers fell off, some new ones joined in. But I was doing meetups before I had a job in tech. Because you don't need to be a conference level speaker, high level educator, Harvard level professor to do a meetup. You're a dev that wants to geek out with other devs. It's not that complex. And so if you're in an area where they don't have meetups, be the change you want to see. Go out there, hang out. But if you do have meetups, go be part of the community. Go talk. Even for us, our volunteers, do you know how we notice the most frequent volunteers? They're the people that keep showing up to the meetups that want to give back. So we give them responsibilities here, do this, do that. That's how it ends up growing. And then in Memphis, when we got hit with the pandemic, obviously Memphis is not a tech town, right? I said in my keynote this morning, when I showed up to Memphis, we do great food, right? I was wearing a size medium shirt when I went to Memphis. It ain't medium no more, right? Like I definitely grew over there. The food is phenomenal, right? But it's not a tech town. When I was going to meetups, it was like the same 5 to 10 people in the room. We grew an amazing community there that when the pandemic hit, it shut everything down, right? Our meetups went from, like, our last in-person event in Memphis had like 300 people there, right? Huge. Our first virtual meetup had 2 people there, right? Then our second one had 3 people there. It wasn't doing well. It wasn't like a progression. We just couldn't figure out what made a good online meetup. And then through a lot of iteration and experience, I realized I'm competing with Netflix, Google, Microsoft, every other tool you have in the world to distract you and your family. So if I'm gonna do it, it has to be worth your time. And that's what I think about all my meetups. You're coming out of your way to come here. It has to be worth your time. What can I do that's actually valuable? And so with this conference, and please, by the way, I really mean this, any feedback you have, good or bad, please give it to me, because I wanna make sure that if people are coming, like 40% of the attendees travel to this thing. Y'all are traveling here. I have to make sure it's worth your time. It can't just be we put a bunch of speakers on a stage. That's good, but what can I do that makes it worth your time? So any feedback you can give me on that one, please do, because if we do this again, I want to make sure it's worth your time to travel. But on top of that, I need to make sure you're getting something for this, right? Because the biggest thing for me that would hurt me is if you left and it really wasn't worth the effort for you to come here. But during that pandemic, we finally figured out what made a great virtual event. And this is the city of Memphis. We didn't have a ton of resources in that regard. And 2 people, a lot of people don't know this, but people in Memphis did. 2 people dedicated time to a virtual event that lived on for years after that event, because we were just geeked out that people of this caliber would even come give resources back to our community. One of those persons, who is not here, unfortunately, is Quincy Dodds. Love that guy. The second person was Quincy Larson. And so many people just disregarded our city because obviously it's not a big tech town. There's not a big scene, but they came out when nobody else would, and they gave one hell of a talk that night. And I remember after the fact, people kept saying, Quincy Larson, you're a rock star to us. But the whole community like truly went off of that, right? We weren't like 1,000 people at a virtual event, so it wasn't doing like big numbers in that regard. But because they gave back, the community benefited. And the only way we'd ever get that benefit was with somebody starting a meetup. And so you could be that change for somebody. I don't think it has to be this big monumental shift, but I do think if you want to see a change and you want to see it within yourself, you have to start putting your feet on the ground and start walking and make a move. Because I can tell you, I've met more people that stop themselves from doing an idea before finding out if it's going to fail or not, because of the threat of failure, than just trying to do something to see what happens. For me, I'm a big believer in failing fast. So oftentimes, even with this conference, I waited a month before I decided to do the damn thing. And then, so I've often said we did this within under 3 months. It could have been 4 if I just started, but I was trying to see if I could shake the feeling of wanting to do it. Once I said I couldn't shake it, I'm like, we're running with this thing. And I remember running with it to where people were like, I don't know if this is going to work out. I don't know if this is right. We don't have enough time. Well, we're not going to find out if we have enough time if we don't start moving stuff. And so with me, prime example was the other day, because I got feedback on this. I had asked somebody to do something. They didn't do it quickly enough because obviously they're operating on a different time level. Well, why should I wait? I just knocked it out in 10 minutes, told them task is updated. Here's the next task. They're like, well, I was going to do it later on tonight. It's like, it's no shade on you. But if we can move progression, let's move it now so we can focus on other things. So quick actions, 10 minutes. Some people are so worried about like, I only have 10 minutes. You can move the needle within 10 minutes. So stop being held back by those items and just kind of knock that thing out. You'll be shocked what you can do. You're very capable. Hope that helps. And I will say the last thing, work hard enough to where your inspirations become your peers, because I'm sitting with them right now. Like, I promise you. I constantly pinch myself when I get to talk to Brad Traversy, because guess what? He's a big reason why I got into tech. When he responds to my DMs, I'm like, I can't even believe I'm talking to him in my DMs. Like, so work until your inspirations become your peers, and just make them people that are in your phone book or your address book or your contact list, to where you're able to text them at will. Like, I think that goes a long way. Yeah, we'll wrap it up after this. I see. I see it.
I got something on my heart real quick, and then we'll do the question. The thing that I learned this weekend and from working with Danny for a little while, there's no magic to it. There's nothing like special or unique about like the things that we've done or how we do it, or any of the things that I see a lot of people in this audience that have done. It's just doing the work. And so when I did something really silly, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I did something really silly that I shouldn't have done. Black Friday, I sent an email out to my newsletter list that was, hey, all my courses are 100% off. All my courses are always free. They're always 100% off. Last week, next week, big inspiration from this gentleman here, right? But it tanked my email open rates. And now I'm like, all right, how do I actually get people to see my emails? Because now they're going to promotions instead of to like the actual inbox they should go. And so I was talking to Quincy last night. I was like, hey, have you ever tried like asking people to reply to your emails just to see what happens? He's like, they do. And I answer all of them. And I was like, what your email list is millions. Like, what do you, he's like, yeah, I answer all of them. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was talking to Danny the other day, and for the DSG group, they have these hiring partners they're trying to build, and he's been running these lunches where he's getting some of the biggest folks in tech to like show up to these lunches to hire. I was like, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? He's like, oh, I sent 4,000 LinkedIn messages. 4,000. And so I heard somebody in the last talk I was in is like, hey, I'm going to meet a lot of people at the conference. I'm not going to remember everybody. Should I like focus on just a few, or should I focus on all of them? And I was just thinking, I was like, damn, you're responding to every email. You're sending 4,000 LinkedIn messages. It's not magic. It's doing it. right? And when I think about what I've been able to do is I just showed up every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Sunday for year plus, and that got the results. And so I think sometimes we forget that there's not like a magic, there's not a secret, there's not a shortcut. It's just figuring out the way that you can make it happen and then leading into that effort. So sorry, yeah, we had a question come through.
Let me just say one thing on that, and you can go to that. It's short. So we talked about this on the podcast again. I'm just saying, top 7 in the USA. I'm just saying. Anyway, no, I will say that I wasn't going to talk about this here, but I decided as a challenge to create a meetup group for CEOs and CTOs of organizations. Part of that incentive for that was we have a cohort program that we don't monetize, but we want to see people get jobs. And so I was like, how do I get people in Dallas to recognize the cohort graduates that we have coming out of the cohort program, but to create a group for that, right? So to get 30 people in the room, it took me 4,000 emails and messages. It took me 3,970 no's to get 30 yeses. And some of the people in the room were CEOs and CTOs of Fortune 50 organizations. So it's like big players are now starting to recognize the effort that we're doing there, right? Obviously, it's a meetup. So like they're interacting, they're engaging, they're talking and all this good stuff. But to get them there took all that effort. And what's funny is I was crazy intimidated by this idea for a long time. And I remember having a conversation with my boss, and I don't think she realized it in that moment. But part of my job, I'm a director. For those that don't know, I'm a director of technology at a company called This.Labs. Great organization, great team. I love them all. And we were having a conversation one day. And part of my role as a director is like, hey, talking with some of our current clients, hey, we finished a task. Do you need us to do something else? What do you want us to prioritize, et cetera? But part of it is also talking technically to some of the new ones. And this intimidated the hell out of me. And I was like, how do I talk to a CEO of a company? For my whole career, I thought if I talk to an engineering manager, I'm doing it big. But now we're talking about CEO, CTO. Like, how do I talk to them? And casually one day she said in a meeting that I had with her one-on-one, and she was talking about how our intern has a meeting coming up with the CEO. I said, the intern got a damn meeting. How did the intern get a meeting? Well, if the intern can get a meeting, I know I can get a meeting. And that just changed how I started looking at it. Because what I've realized is if you bring value to a conversation, someone's going to want to have that conversation with you. It might not be every single person that you approach. That's why I kind of look at hiring the same way. It's like every time you apply for a job, it might not be a fit for them, for you, for everyone. So it's like, how do I start knocking it out? And how do I make sure I improve my chances? And so for 4,000 LinkedIn messages and emails, it wasn't the same damn message. It was customized each set and every time. But to get 30 people in that room, we were estimating that the net worth in that room was around $80 million. So like to get $80 million in the room, it took that effort. But if I'm looking at changing my circumstances in my life, my career, my income, why am I looking at it like it's a drop in the bucket and I'm discounting myself and my own efforts? Oh, I'm just going to mass apply to 2,000 jobs. You're not worth the attention and detail to customize your applies? You don't want to increase the rate of apply for yourself? You think that lowly of yourself? Come on, be serious. You're valuable. Act like it. What's the question?
What do you expect to become an issue that isn't going to be?
I don't have a crystal ball. What are you talking about? Like, you want to go? I don't know.
Yeah, cool. So I've been teaching for about 10 years now, and there's always been something that's changed about the ecosystem that specifically if you're focused on like people breaking into tech, that has been the excuse. So for a long time, it was offshoring, then nearshoring, then no code, now AI, and it's always been kind of like if you wanted an excuse to not change your life for the better, to not put in the effort, I get it. It's a hard journey, but those excuses were always convenient to be like, you know what, I won't do it because of that. So I get it that there are these things that prop up that give you that out. But in the next year, the next 2, 3, it's not going to be a seismic shift that's going to stop every business on the corner that needs the website, the people that need to implement these new tools. They're going to need people that do it. And so at every stage I've been doing this, there's always been an excuse. And if you let that, you close off an amazing career, an amazing community. And so my piece is, it's going to change. Who cares? when it comes, we'll be ready for it because of the skills that you're putting in. And like Quincy was saying, you can't rest on your laurels. If you're already in, you got to keep elevating that skill set, keep adopting these new tools so that when there's new opportunity, you're ready for it. And so opportunity has been there. It'll continue to be there. What's the alternative for you too? And if there's not something that's super clear that you're ready to jump into, don't miss out on what could be a fabulous life, a fabulous career for you. Like lean into not using that as an out, but putting in the effort to get to where you want to go.
Maybe we can wrap up on this one. So here's the way that I see things. I've lived by a quote for a long time. I forgot who said this or where I heard it, but the agile are secure. And so if you have the ability to adopt, to move, if you have the ability to adopt and move, you will find yourself, I don't know what's going on with that system. If you have the ability to adopt or move, and it's doing it with this too, I think it's a bigger thing. I'm fine. I'm loud. Y'all can hear me, right? All right. So if you got the ability to adopt or move, you're going to find yourself a success. JavaScript is going to evolve to what it is. For a while, Knockout.js was the thing. Who uses that now? For a while, jQuery was the thing. You still got people using it, but nowhere close to the levels that it was before, right? I don't see that changing in any field, any way, any shape, any form. AI has grown. There's jobs in there now, right? To be honest with you, I can tell you this from firsthand. I'm literally, and from like the consulting aspect, do you know how lucrative those AI roles are? Like they're all over the place in high demand. You got them, right? So you can be agile, learn the demands of the market, and you'll find yourself with opportunity. And I've said this for years. If you learn the demands of your local market, you will never run out of an opportunity, because your biggest advantage, no matter where you're located in the globe, and I know the internet loves to harp on this one, but I'm telling you, I've talked to people, I've helped people on 6 different continents get jobs. If you know anybody in Antarctica that needs a job and got a list, I'd love to say all 7 continents. But 6 continents get jobs. And every single time, I don't care what country it is, I don't care what economic factors there are, if you can help local organizations, it's 2024, 2025, y'all. Any company that deals with customers needs to have some form of online presence. Prime example, y'all heard of Micro Center? It's like heaven for devs, right? Your money disappears, though. It's crazy. But Micro Center, I had a need yesterday. They have a great website, right? But none of their stores have phone numbers. And I was going crazy trying to find out how I can call the store to find one specific answer to the problem. I ended up finding out a 1-800 number, and I went off like, why can I not talk to a store associate? They said, because we want you to show up. When you're in there, when you know your money's going to go. So just come into the store with a problem. But any business that deals with customers has to have some form of online presence. And what's crazy is on Twitter, I'll never call it X, on Twitter, there is a group chat right now of people that are at the CYC conference, right? And if you're not in there and you are active on Twitter, let me know and I'll try and add you in there, right? But one person shared the website of a restaurant that they were going to, and they're like, hey, I'm going to be here. If you want to eat with me, come hang out, yada, yada, yada. And one of the first comments was their website needs work. And that's where opportunity is. Do you know how many, and people, when they think of freelancing or stuff, they think of like, oh, how do I get into this Fortune 500 organization? But you know how many mom and pop shops are around you that need help? So many people are worried about what's on the horizon without thinking about there's all these other solutions that also need problems. If you are a problem solver, the syntax is just a way to deliver that solution. The old focus is, and the entire focus should be, how do I solve problems more efficiently? And if you can do that, the language you can pick up. I don't care what skill level you're at. The languages can change. I see Dennis over here. For a while, he's using a different database. Now he's using AppWrite. I see over here at Mongo. I can't believe y'all ain't fighting. But, but seriously, like you can learn whatever is necessary. So I think so many people are focused on what's to come, what's to come. Just go with the flow. Like, it's funny because Tracy, my boss, for a lot of this conference prep, she's like, what if this goes wrong? I was like, then it goes wrong. We'll fix it. Like, why am I so paranoid about what could go wrong, what could go wrong? And even that, like yesterday, everybody asked me, you feel ready for the conference? I was like, all the prep has been done. Whatever I do in this very moment changes absolutely nothing. So why am I so paranoid about it? I'll adjust to whatever needs to be adjusted. But I'm telling you right now, if you're so focused on ahead, and I get it. As humans, we're so focused on what's to come. We're so go, 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 that sometimes we forget to take a pause and stop and look at where we are and where we've been. And sometimes that reflection will give you so much fuel for where you're going. But sometimes just owning the moment that you're in now will honestly open so many opportunities for you. So stop worrying so much about where we see everything going. Nobody really knows. You know what's crazy? 5 years ago, I saw all these predictions. 3 years ago, I saw all these predictions. None of them included AI. Who 5 years ago was talking about AI? So whatever comes up, you're just going to adopt. And look at all these devs now that were scared of AI. You remember Twitter last year. All the jobs are gone. Nah. Now we're just using it. The jobs are still there. So just no one's getting replaced by AI. Maybe in some areas, I don't know. I won't make a blanket statement. I'd say 80% of folks that thought they were going to lose their job to AI hasn't, right? So don't worry too much. Go with the flow. You'll be just fine. After that, I think we should wrap up because 25 minutes became an hour. You want to say something?
Yeah, I'll say, just to build on what Danny just said, there are 1 million charities in the United States, 1 million organizations that are like tax exempt, churches, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, people that are doing things around giving kids access to technology, book type places that are like libraries, but community efforts, all kinds of organizations that need help. There are more than, I don't even know how many actual businesses there are, like mom and pops, but there are probably many million legal entities in the United States that need developers to help them navigate new things like AI, navigate security vulnerabilities and all kinds of stuff that, it's just crazy how much work there is to be done. And it's unfathomable that somehow like some magic AI is just going to like solve all those problems. I talked on the Free Code Camp podcast, which if you have time to listen, it's a very long podcast, it's like 2 hours. It's unedited. It's just straight raw me talking with different devs. Sarah Shook's been on there. Pretty awesome conversation I had with her. And of course had these two gentlemen on it as well. But I've talked with, I think we've done like 150 plus episodes, and I've talked, everybody from like Jeff Atwood and his partner in crime, Stack Overflow founders, Joel Spolsky. I've talked with David Malin from Harvard, and then I've talked with people who've never been on a podcast before and just work as a dev, like people that were driving Uber and then figured out how to get a contract job, like doing software development and stuff. So there's a broad range of perspectives. And I will tell you, like, just on the note of AI, because everybody talks about AI and stuff, like the consensus among these people is I've never had a senior experienced developer tell me that they are worried about AI, significantly impacting jobs. I've had plenty tell me that they think employers' perspective on AI and their overestimation of AI capabilities is likely to, in the near term, reduce job openings, but eventually they will have to hire devs, right? And people generally say, like, it makes me 20% more productive as a developer. The fact that I've got like kind of the equivalent of like half a junior dev that I can like pull up in a tab and like ask questions to, and I have to double check all the code and everything. But I genuinely believe that it is a cool tool in the toolbox. I spend a lot of time using it myself. I'm very excited about the applications and things like that. But there, fundamentally, a lot of the work that needs to be done is communication. It's going out and talking to business owners, understanding what they actually need. All this, there are tremendous opportunities if you want to do like a side gig where you help local charities, you help small businesses in addition to working. That could be very profitable for you, and it might be able to help set you up for creating a consultancy like This Labs, which is everybody in tech, I think, looks at that organization just like, damn, like there was some stiff competition, right? You got like Pivotal, you got like all these storied agencies, and then you get this new one, and it's just amazing. Like, and some things just come from nothing. Like people going out and hustling and making the connections and proving their capabilities. It's incredibly impressive, and you all could potentially do that too if you put in the time and effort. The one thing I'll say, just in closing, because I know I'm talking too long, but don't ever rest on your laurels. Don't ever feel comfortable. Don't ever feel like, I'm just going to kind of take it easy for a few years and just focus on my hobbies and stuff like that. I genuinely believe that if you can keep up some baseline amount of progress in your skills, whether that's just, listening to a bunch of tech podcasts and occasionally doing like new projects on the weekend and picking up new tools and taking them for a spin when they get all hyped on Hacker News and stuff. Why not, right? Just keep learning, keep expanding your skills, and you will put yourself in a position where you can have a whole lot of agency in your career and you have a tremendous number of options. You will get there if you just compound that learning day in and day out. Not day in and day out, but like daily. Like I would say if you can commit even like 30 minutes a day to continuing professional development, continuing education, that is going to give you a huge edge over all the people that are just chilling and happy with where they are. So don't get complacent, stay hungry, stay curious.
Let me close this out. All right. Question for people in the room. Raise your hand if you do not know what is, no shame, by the way. There's something that's happening after this. Raise your hand if you're not aware of what's happening. Okay. I tried really hard to get like the word out for this, but we are doing a Commit Your Code social. So it's about 2 minutes from here. It's at Legacy Hall. We have the entire outdoor area. We got some private bartenders, so like any drinks and stuff like that. There's like 30 different restaurants in there, so like you can kind of get. They're all walk up, right? So it's like a building, 30 restaurants. There's a brewery on the second floor, et cetera, et cetera. You can get like food from everywhere if you want. It's up to you. Great spot. We've invited the entire conference. There's going to be a lot of people there. Last time I checked, there's like 177 people have RSVP'd. Yes, so highly recommend coming out there. Legacy Hall, literally 2 minutes away. Hopefully we'll see y'all there. The other thing I want to say is there is food outside still, right? We obviously ordered a lot of food. We want to make sure everybody had some. Please take some. If not, like throwing that away would break my heart. So please take some, take it home to your neighbors, your wife, kids, feed the family, all the good stuff. We're happy to do that. So please take that with y'all on the way out. The last thing that I kind of wanted to do, it's up to y'all. I would love if we just, so I kind of started the keynote with this. I wanted to end the day with this. At the end of every meetup, we take a very large group picture. As we were talking, a different vision for the group picture came in my mind where we could have the entire group here and we could take the picture off the stage with us being on the stage. Would y'all be okay with that? Anyone that feels comfortable, please come to the front and let's take a group picture together. Thank you. I realized I was talking into the mic. Oh, nobody corrected me? Nobody said anything about that. It's crazy.
Also, I'll just say, like, while you're walking up here,